The strangest thing about betrayal is that it never arrives the way you expect. It doesn't knock. It seeps. It drips into moments that seem harmless until they curdle. One minute, you're folding laundry. The next, you're holding a piece of fabric that smells like someone else's cologne. That's exactly how this started. It was a Tuesday, the kind of day that should mean nothing. I came home early from work because the internet at the office fried during a thunderstorm. Around 2:30 p.m., I pulled into the driveway. Her car wasn't there. No surprise, she teaches at a dance studio part-time, so I figured she was working. I wasn't suspicious. Not then. I went inside, grabbed a soda, and tossed the laundry basket onto the bed. I started folding her tops, her tights, her tank tops, all the usual stuff, and then I found it. A men's t-shirt. Not mine. Too slim in the waist. Too short in the sleeves. Soft, like it had been worn and washed 100 times. It wasn't brand new, but it didn't belong to me. I held it up. There was a small logo stitched near the bottom hem. A music festival in Chicago. We hadn't been to Chicago. Ever. I froze. My brain tried to make excuses. Maybe she thrifted it. Maybe it was a donation for her studio. Maybe one of her students left it. But my gut twisted in a way that only tells one kind of truth. The one you don't want to hear. I dropped the shirt. I stared at it on the bed. I waited. She came home around 5. I didn't say anything right away. Couldn't. I needed to see her face, hear her voice, watch the little things. How she moved. If her hands shook. If her eyes darted. I needed confirmation beyond cotton and suspicion. We had dinner. Chicken stir-fry. She barely touched hers. Said she was tired. She smiled when she said it, but there was something off about that smile. It didn't touch her eyes. She tapped her fork against her plate, like she wanted to say something but didn't. I let her shower first. When she was in there, I went into her purse. I didn't feel guilty. I felt surgical, purposeful. There's a difference between being paranoid and being lied to. Inside her bag, I found a second phone. Black. No case. No lock screen. I turned it on. The messages were the first thing I saw. Not even hidden. Dozens of texts, like some stupid romantic drama. But real. Too real. Her name was saved in his phone as Clara. His name was saved in hers as Coach. The messages were a graveyard of secrets. Hearts, winks, and whispers. He'd sent her a picture of his new apartment. She replied, "Can't wait to break it in." He wrote, "You smell like you did in June. I missed that." She replied, "You remembered." I didn't blink. I read every single word like they were daggers, each one sharpening the next. One thread ended with this: "You always make me feel alive. Not like him." I locked the phone, put it back, didn't breathe for 20 seconds. Then I walked into the bathroom, calm, robotic. She was brushing her teeth. I leaned against the doorway and said, "Who's Coach?" She stopped, froze mid-stroke. Then she spat, looked at me through the mirror. "What?" I said, "Who's Coach?" "The one who wants to break in his apartment with you." Her hand dropped. She turned. Her face went blank. Not guilty, not afraid, blank. Then she smiled. The slow, surgical grin. "You went through my things? Answer the question." "You had no right. You had no husband." She laughed. Actually laughed. Like I had just told her a bad joke. "Are you being serious right now?" "Serious enough to ask you again." She walked past me, dripping water from her hair onto the floor, completely unfazed. "God, you're so dramatic," she muttered. "It's not even what you think." "Then explain it to me. Explain what he meant when he said you smell like June." She turned sharply. "That's between me and him." I didn't hit the wall. I didn't raise my voice. But inside, something was collapsing in slow motion. The weight of every day I'd ever trusted her. Every lie she had told with that same calm tone. She stood in front of me. No guilt. No shame. Just tired eyes and that twisted smile. I was bored. Okay. You sit at that damn desk all day and come home thinking a kiss on the cheek is intimacy. You don't look at me like he does. You don't talk to me like he does. I don't feel anything with you anymore. Then she had the nerve to add, "But I didn't plan for this. It just happened." That phrase. It just happened. As if she had tripped and fallen into betrayal. As if she was a leaf caught in the wind. as if she had no agency in any of this. I didn't speak. Not yet. I walked back into the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, looked at that stupid shirt still lying there, like it was watching me. Then I picked up my phone and started writing a message. Not to her, not to him, to someone who would matter later. Because if she wanted to play me, she had no idea who she was messing with. I stared at the screen, fury boiling, trust dead. But I won't crumble. She wanted to play me. Now I'm writing the ending. My revenge won't be loud. It'll be unforgettable. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed next to her, breathing the same air, counting every rise and fall of her chest like a prisoner waiting for a window of escape. Her back was turned. She slept easily. No guilt in her muscles. No weight in her breath. I stared at the ceiling for 7 hours, and all I could hear was that line repeating over and over. That's between me and him. As if I didn't matter. As if 9 years, 4 apartments, 2 funerals, and 1,000 shared mornings could be shrugged off with a sentence. In the morning, I acted like nothing happened. I made coffee, toasted her favorite sourdough bread, and left it on the counter the way I always did. She walked in, wearing a long sweater and that same careless face. She thanked me, kissed me on the cheek like a ritual she didn't believe in anymore, and left for yoga. I followed her. She didn't go to yoga. She drove across town to a parking lot behind a brick building that used to be a printing press. I parked a block away and waited. I watched her wait in the lot, texting. I watched the silver Hyundai pull up next to her, and I watched her get into it, smiling like a teenager. She kissed him the second she got in. That was the moment the fire stopped being hot. It just burned, quiet, steady, pure. I took pictures, not for proof, not to show her. I already knew the truth. I needed it for something else, something I was still shaping. They were gone for 2 hours. I didn't follow after that. I drove home. I opened the windows. I made the bed. I put on music, something loud and instrumental because words didn't feel right anymore. When she got back, she was humming. She dropped her gym bag in the hall and started telling me about a fake yoga instructor named Marta and how her hamstrings were destroyed. I looked at her mid-lie and said, I hope it was worth it. Her expression shattered for half a second. That's how you catch a liar. Not in their words, but in the glitch. The moment the mask slips. Then came the performance. What are you talking about? You kissed him in the car. I saw you. Silence. Then she laughed. Short, breathless. Oh my God. You followed me? Are you completely losing your mind? She moved to the kitchen, grabbing a glass, filling it, drinking like she needed time to rehearse her next line. That's not what you think. He's just a friend. You kissed your friend on the mouth. People kiss. It's not a big deal. Europeans do it all the time. He's from Michigan. She rolled her eyes. Are you really doing this? Spying on me? Acting like some paranoid freak? I'm doing this because you won't stop lying. Then she exploded. Not sad, not guilty, angry, because I had ruined her narrative. Because I didn't sit quietly and accept the crumbs she was offering. You know what? You've always been like this. Controlling. Obsessed. This is why I needed him. Because with him, I can breathe. That was it. No apology. No remorse. Just a woman looking at her husband like he was the problem for noticing. I nodded. Picked up my phone. Showed her the photos. Her hand reached out, fast, tried to grab the phone, delete the evidence, rewrite the story before it was fully told. She failed. Why are you doing this? She whispered. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, because you thought you were smarter than me. Because you thought I was too soft to fight back. Because you underestimated how far I'm willing to go to end this on my terms. Then I left. Not the house. The room. Let her sit with it. Let the storm begin to eat at her nerves. Let her start to panic. Not because she got caught, but because she no longer had control. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I started planning. You don't wage war with fire and fists. You wage it with silence. With precision. With the kind of calm that makes your enemy wonder if they missed a step somewhere. If the real danger has already passed or is just beginning. That's where I was now. I didn't confront her again. I didn't ask questions. I didn't snoop. I made breakfast. I laughed at her jokes. I offered to take her car in for service. I kissed her forehead when she pretended to sleep. I became a ghost in the shape of a husband. And while she rehearsed her lies in front of mirrors, I was building something behind the scenes, a framework for the collapse. One pin at a time. First thing I did was meet with a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. One recommended by a man whose wife tried to bleed him dry and ended up with a studio apartment and a mountain of debt. She didn't see it coming. Mine wouldn't either. We talked for 3 hours. I told him everything, the second phone, the man, the surveillance. He listened. He nodded. He asked the right questions like a surgeon mapping a tumor. Then he leaned in and said, "You've got leverage. Use it carefully." Next step, finances. Madison never cared about bills. She liked swiping. That was her domain. I was the one who paid off cards, juggled accounts, handled investments. She once called it my boring little kingdom. Well, I was about to become its tyrant. I quietly transferred all liquid assets into a separate account under my name. Left just enough to avoid suspicion. I changed the password on our joint credit cards. I redirected paycheck deposits. I printed out 5 years' worth of bank statements and highlighted every charge that didn't make sense. Hotel rooms. Uber rides at 3 a.m. Fancy dinners on nights she claimed to be at spin class. They were all there, hiding in plain sight. One night, she asked, "Hey, did the Amex get declined today at Sephora?" I looked up from my book and said, "Oh, must be fraud. I'll check it later." She frowned, but only for a second. Then she smiled again, told me she'd just pay cash. That smile, that infuriating, casual smirk, made my blood hum, not boil, hum, because I knew it wouldn't be on her face for much longer. And then, finally, came him. I found Brad K. In less than a day. The idiot used his real name on the hotel booking. I found his LinkedIn. He's a personal strength consultant. Translation: glorified gym bro who never outgrew high school. He works at a chain fitness club 2 towns over. I paid a visit not to him but to the woman who manages the front desk. Her name's Valerie. She had a dry sense of humor and a grudge against Brad so thick you could bottle it. "He's a creep," she told me. "Flirts with every woman over 30 like he's doing them a favor." I told her I was just curious. Just gathering context. I dropped a few hints. "He's been seeing someone married," I said casually. "Really thinks he's a mastermind." Valerie's eyes lit up. "Oh, he brags about it. Thinks he's James Bond." Perfect. She gave me everything. His schedule, his habits, his favorite locker, even the name he used when checking into hotels, James Klein. I laughed out loud. What a cartoon character. I didn't confront him. Not yet, because this story wasn't about him. He was a pawn in a game he didn't even know he was playing. The real queen was still in the house, still smiling over pancakes, still texting Coach under the table while pretending to ask her sister about weekend plans. But something had changed. I could feel it. She'd started watching me more closely, testing the air around me, asking odd questions like, "You've been quiet lately? Everything okay? Or you still love me, right?" That's when I knew she was starting to feel it. That subtle shift, the tremor under the floorboards. But she didn't know the walls were already rotting. The house was already burning. I let her sit with her suspicions. And then, one Thursday morning, I dropped the first match. "I got invited to a conference next weekend," I told her, sipping coffee. "Chicago." Her face didn't move, but her fingers clenched slightly around the spoon in her cereal bowl. She didn't blink. "Really? You hate conferences?" "I think I could use the distraction." She nodded. Too fast. Too polite. "You should go," she said. "I will," I answered. But I wasn't going to Chicago, and she wasn't going to be alone, because the next move, that would flip the board completely. Saturday morning, 7:12 a.m. She thought I had left for Chicago. I even went so far as to print out a fake itinerary and leave it casually folded on the kitchen counter. Flights, hotel, a full schedule of seminars. She barely glanced at it, but I made sure she saw the address. Downtown Hilton, the same chain she once used to host her secret trysts. I packed a suitcase with clothes I didn't need, loaded it into my car, and drove halfway to the airport before circling back and parking in a grocery store lot 5 blocks from our house. I waited in the front seat, reclined low, sunglasses on, coffee in hand, watching, timing. At 9:37, Her car pulled out of the driveway. No yoga mat, no gym bag, just her and a tote purse big enough to carry secrets. She didn't even hesitate. She didn't pretend to hesitate. She didn't even look in the rear view like someone aware of consequences. That was the final proof I needed. She believed I was gone. She believed she had won. And when people believe they've won, that's when they stop hiding. I followed her from a distance. She didn't go to a hotel this time. She went to his apartment, the one I had seen in the pictures on the burner phone. I watched her buzz herself in. No hesitation. No knock. She had a key. And that was the moment it became real in a way it hadn't before. She didn't just cheat. She built another life. A duplicate. A mirror house across town where she could be adored, touched, praised. And she let me keep paying for the lights while she slept in someone else's bed. I didn't follow her in. I didn't need to. This wasn't about catching anymore. This was about setting the final pieces in motion. I drove home, quiet, methodical. Then I made 3 calls. The first was to the lawyer. I told him I was ready to file, and I wanted her served at that address. Not our home, his apartment. I gave him the exact unit. He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Understood." The second call was to a friend of mine, Brian, who happens to be in real estate. He helped me list the house. Quietly, legally. All my name. No signature from her required until the final stage, which she wouldn't get to. The third call was the hardest. I called her mother. Now let me be clear, her mother and I were never particularly close. But she always respected me, trusted me, and I needed her to hear it from me, not her daughter's tear-soaked spin. I kept it short, clean. She's been seeing someone else. I have proof. I filed for divorce. You'll probably hear from her soon. I thought you should know. There was a pause on the line. Then, very quietly, her mother said, "I had a feeling." I hung up. I spent the rest of the day calmly erasing her from my world. Photos came down. Her dresses were boxed. Jewelry I had bought her went into a bag. The bed was stripped. The sheets bagged and placed on the porch like contaminated fabric. I even changed the Wi-Fi password and set the TV profile to Tyler only. Every little move, a scalpel to the life she thought she could float through untouched. Then came Sunday. She came home around 3 p.m. hair messy. No makeup. That afterglow she didn't bother hiding anymore. She walked in, tossed her purse on the table and called out, "Babe!" I stepped out from the kitchen, calm, hands dry, eyes sharp. She froze. "You're supposed to be in Chicago." "I was," I said. "In a sense." "What does that mean?" "It means the game's over." Confusion crossed her face first. Then panic flickered just under the surface. "Tyler, what are you talking about?" "I know everything. I've seen everything. I've spoken to your boyfriend's coworkers. I know his fake hotel name. I know you had a key to his apartment. And by the way, you'll be served papers tomorrow morning at his place. So wear something nice." The silence was deafening. She tried to laugh again. That same brittle, sarcastic laugh. But it didn't land this time. "You're bluffing. Try me." She went pale, then red, then stormed toward me, furious. "You think you can just decide this? You don't get to." "I already have." She looked around the house, our house, like she was realizing for the first time that the ground was no longer hers. "I made a mistake," she whispered finally. "It wasn't supposed to go this far." I tilted my head. Which part? The lies or the other man's bed? Tears didn't come. That's what struck me most. She wasn't sorry. She was caught. There's a difference, and it smells like desperation and old perfume. "I thought you wouldn't find out," she said. "You're always so oblivious." That word. Oblivious. Like I was a child playing adult. Like I was some clueless fool in a tie who couldn't possibly outplay her. I didn't respond. I walked past her, opened the front door and said, "You should go." She looked at me like I had betrayed her. "You're throwing me out?" "No," I said calmly. "You already did that. I'm just helping you pack." And as she stood there, mouth open, fury building, I realized something profound. She had written 1,000 lies into our marriage. But I just started writing the ending. And the next part? It would haunt her. She didn't leave right away. Of course she didn't. People like her never do. They don't walk away, they linger, hover, infect. She stood in the doorway with her arms folded like she was deciding if this was really happening. Like maybe if she stayed still long enough, the scene would reverse itself and I'd fall back into place. Obedient, apologetic, fooled. But I didn't move. And she couldn't believe it. "You're making a mistake," she said finally. That was her Hail Mary. Not an apology. A threat wrapped in pity. "You're burning everything over one stupid thing." "One stupid thing?" I repeated. "You built a whole side life and you're calling it a stupid thing?" She looked down. "I didn't mean for it to be." "You didn't mean?" I cut her off. "You didn't mean to meet him. You didn't mean to text him at midnight from our bed. You didn't mean to lie to my face 100 times. You didn't mean to use my name, my trust, my house like a runway to your real relationship." And then she snapped. Finally. "Oh, don't pretend like you've been some perfect husband. You're boring, Tyler. Predictable. You talk about spreadsheets and power tools and the weather. Every day is the same." I needed to feel something else. Something real. I nodded. Slowly. That was her truth, finally. She needed more. She wanted excitement. She wanted noise. And when life didn't hand it to her, she reached into the flames and pulled out chaos. But here's the thing about fire. It always burns the one who plays with it too long. "I'm boring," I said. "Maybe, but I never lied. I never betrayed. I never treated you like background noise." "You're so dramatic," she hissed. "You're enjoying this." That's when I smiled, not out of joy, out of understanding. "No, I'm relieved. Because now I don't have to pretend anymore. I don't have to carry your weight. I don't have to fight to matter in a story you rewrote without me." She opened her mouth, probably to launch another excuse, another low blow. I raised a hand. "Save it. You have 20 minutes to pack whatever you can carry. After that, you're a trespasser." And I meant it. She stormed upstairs. I didn't follow. I sat in the living room, opened my laptop, and finalized the real estate documents with Brian. House listed. Quiet sale. All proceeds frozen until divorce completion. Every T crossed. She came down 18 minutes later. 2 duffel bags. Face red. Mascara ruined. She glared at me like I had become a stranger. But I hadn't changed. I had simply opened my eyes. As she left, she turned at the door and threw one last stone. "He won't be the last, you know. You'll always be second best to someone." I didn't flinch. I stood, walked over to her, leaned in close and said, "Then I'll make sure no one ever forgets who came first." She left. I stood in the silence afterward, and it didn't feel like loss. It felt like cleansing. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't call anyone. I just sat in that room and stared at the space she no longer occupied. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I felt awake. The revenge? Oh, it was already in motion. Quiet. Slow. Surgical. But this wasn't about rage anymore. It wasn't about breaking her. It was about building what she thought she had destroyed. Me. Because she wanted to bury me in her lies. But all she did was clear the ground. And now I was laying a new foundation. The thing about rebuilding yourself from wreckage is that it's not as cinematic as people think. There's no training montage, no dramatic haircut, no sudden flash of strength. It's smaller than that. Slower. You start by taking the trash out, the literal trash. You vacuum the corners. You clean the mirrors. You reclaim the house like it's been haunted. And in a way, it has. Every room held ghosts of conversations that meant nothing. Laughter that wasn't real. Compliments she said while texting someone else under the table. I walked through each space like I was exorcising the past. Not with fire, but with purpose. Measured. Intentional. Quiet. I got rid of everything that felt like hers. The throw pillows she bought because they were Instagrammable. The spice rack she never used. The rose gold wine glasses. The white robe with her initials stitched near the collar. All gone. I didn't donate them. I threw them out. Some things don't deserve a second life. Then I sat down and wrote a message. Not to her. Not to him. To his mother. Yes, I found her. Simple search. Public records. His emergency contact from a leaked gym employee file. Valerie was thorough. Her name was Lorraine. Retired nurse. Sweet face. Facebook page filled with grandkid photos and knitting tutorials. I wrote her a message. It was respectful. Direct. Chilling. Hi Lorraine. I thought you might want to know that your son Brad has been in a long-term affair with my wife, who is now in the process of being served divorce papers. I'm not contacting you out of anger. I'm contacting you because the woman he's been seeing was married for 9 years. And your son knew. He knew and he didn't care. I thought, before you posted another picture of him holding your grandkids, you should know what kind of man you raised. I never hit send. I saved it. Why? Because power is knowing what you could do and choosing when and if to do it. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about leverage. And I was building it brick by brick. A few days passed. She texted. Of course she did. Her. Can we talk? Just talk. No lawyers. Please. I left it on read. Her. You're being cold. This isn't you. I don't know who you've become. And I realized something. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of me she could control. She missed the man who wouldn't dare say no. The man who used to ask what he did wrong when she got distant. The man who made excuses for her silences. That man was gone. She'd buried him, thinking he'd stay dead. But I clawed out, and now I was standing above her grave. Then came the phone call. Brad. Stupid, bold Brad. He called me around 11 p.m. on a Thursday. His number came up as no caller ID, but his voice gave him away in 5 words. Hey man, we need to talk. I didn't speak. I didn't mean for this to get out of control, he continued. She told me you were separated. I stayed silent. She lied to both of us, he said, like he wanted sympathy. Still silent. Then came the kicker. She's kind of losing it, man. She's crying all the time, saying you're destroying her life. I think she wants to come back to you. I laughed. Not a big laugh. A short, sharp exhale. She won't, I said. But you might. Might what? Come back. Around. Into my story. What does that mean? I hung up. Let him sit in it. Let him Google my name at 2 a.m. and realize I'd been 10 steps ahead for weeks. Let him wonder what else I knew. Let him feel watched. I started sleeping again. Eating better. Lifting more. I cut off the people who used to check in just to gossip. I didn't tell them my side. I let their curiosity rot. I started journaling. Writing everything down. Not for healing. For record. So that someday, if she ever tries to spin the tale, I'll have the book. The blueprint. The full anatomy of her downfall. This wasn't about revenge. Not anymore. It was about control. And now that I had it, I wasn't giving it back. It didn't take long. When someone like her loses control, they don't vanish, they scramble. They twist the story. They rewrite history with a trembling hand. They spin a new version of themselves faster than you can blink. And when no one buys it, that's when they come crawling back to the very place they detonated. It started with a handwritten letter. Not a text, not an email. A letter, folded once, slid into my mailbox like a confession disguised as romance. She must have thought the nostalgia would disarm me. The handwriting, the perfume, the emotional word salad that always worked before. She opened with, I miss the way you used to look at me. I almost laughed. She talked about how unrecognizable things had become. How she had lost herself. How she didn't recognize the person she had become. No mention of Brad. Not once. Just vague, poetic guilt dressed up like vulnerability. She ended it with, if there's still even one flicker left in you, please don't shut the door completely. Please let me come home. I folded the letter neatly, slid it into an envelope, and mailed it back. Empty. No note. No message. Just her own words returned to her. Hollow, meaningless. Like they had always been. 3 days later, she showed up. I saw her car pull into the driveway. She didn't even text first. Just arrived like she had a key to the past, like time could be rewound by proximity. I didn't open the door. She knocked, then rang, then knocked again, louder this time. I stood behind the door, quiet, invisible, watching her through the small glass pane. Her hair tied up, face thinner, not from grief but from unrest. There were dark circles under her eyes, and she kept checking her phone like someone expecting rescue. Eventually, I opened the door. Just a crack. She smiled like we were old friends. Tyler, she said, please, just 5 minutes. I stepped outside, pulled the door shut behind me, and leaned against the frame like I was waiting for a delivery. Not a conversation. She blinked. That threw her off. I needed to see you. To explain. You already did, I said. With every lie, every kiss that wasn't mine, every silence you filled with someone else. That's not fair. What's not fair? That you gambled our life for dopamine and lost. She bit her lip, swallowed. Eyes flicked to the ground. I didn't mean to destroy everything. But you did, I said. And now you want sympathy for the fire you started? She stepped forward. Soft. Rehearsed. I still love you. No, I said, voice even. You love the version of me that made you feel safe while you betrayed me. That man's gone. Silence. Then the real face appeared, the one behind the performance. Anger. Cold. Defensive. I gave you the best years of my life. No, I said again. You took them. And then came the final swing. Brad's out of the picture, she said. I nodded slowly. So? Her mouth opened, then closed. I smiled. Just a little. You still don't get it, I said. You think I was waiting for that. That once he was gone, I'd come running. But this isn't about him. It never was. This is about you. You broke something permanent. And now you want to repaint the rubble and pretend it's a home. Her eyes filled, but I didn't care. Tears aren't apologies. They're just water. She reached out, fingers grazing the sleeve of my shirt. I didn't move. I let her touch it. Not me, just the fabric. That's all she had left. I just want a chance to fix things. I leaned in close. Not cruel. Just clear. There is no fixing. There's only remembering. And I want you to remember this moment every time you think about how this ended. She pulled her hand back like it burned her. I loved you, she said one last time. And I loved the woman I thought you were, I replied. Turns out we were both wrong. Then I walked inside. I didn't look back. I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel rage. I felt done. And she finally understood what it felt like to be on the outside of something unfixable. 3 weeks. That's how long the silence lasted after she left my doorstep for the last time. No texts. No late-night calls. No letters scented like remorse. The quiet felt artificial, like a forced truce in a war that hadn't truly ended. But I didn't mind it. I thrived in it. Because while she disappeared into whatever mess she'd made of her life, I was busy reassembling mine. Piece by piece, but this time on my own terms. The papers were filed. Official. Irreversible. No more delays. No more negotiations. She tried to stall once. Said she wanted to process the emotional weight before signing. I reminded her, in writing, that she'd already processed enough of someone else's weight in someone else's apartment. She signed 2 days later. And then something unexpected happened. I met someone. No, not in the way you think. This isn't some cheesy rebound story or a karmic reward for being the good guy. She wasn't a romantic interest. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Her name was Nora. She worked for a marketing agency I'd hired to rebrand my small business. The one Madison always called my hobby. Despite it keeping our roof intact, Nora wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't flirt or lean in too close. She just asked the right questions and actually listened. Genuinely listened. It was disarming. At first, I kept it professional. Cordial. But during one late meeting, she noticed my desk photos were missing. Minimalist now? She asked. More like revisionist, I replied. She tilted her head. Clean slate. Clean cut. She didn't press. She just nodded. Sharp edges make clean scars. That line stayed with me. We started talking more. Nothing romantic. Just human. About books. About silence. About what happens when trust is torn like wet paper. She told me her story. Years ago, her fiancé left her for her maid of honor. She didn't cry when she told it. She smiled. The kind of smile you earn through fire. I didn't realize how much I needed that. Someone who wasn't trying to fix me, seduce me, or dissect me. Just someone who understood the mess without trying to label it. Madison must have sensed the shift, like a shark tasting blood in water. Because right when I stopped caring, she resurfaced. Started small. A message, sent at 3:08 a.m. Her, I had a dream about you. You were laughing again. I didn't reply. A day later, her, I still have some of your sweaters. Want me to drop them off? I didn't reply. Then came the escalation. The oldest trick in the book. She called my mother. Said she was worried about me. Said I'd been isolating. Said she thought maybe I needed someone to pull me back from the edge. My mom, bless her loyalty, shut it down instantly. She called me the same day. Your ex-wife is spinning stories. Thought you should know. That's when I realized. Madison wasn't trying to return. She was trying to rewrite. She couldn't handle the version of the story where she was the villain and I survived. She needed a new narrative. One where I was lost without her. Damaged. Desperate. And maybe, if she could paint that picture well enough, she'd get to be the savior again. But it was too late. Because the more she reached back, the smaller her hands became. She was losing relevance. And that, for someone like her, is the worst death imaginable. Meanwhile, Nora and I kept talking. Still nothing romantic. Just two people with burned bridges behind them, slowly learning how to walk barefoot without bleeding. One day, Nora said, "People like your ex, they don't want closure. They want control." I looked at her. "You speak from experience." "I speak from victory," she said, and I smiled. Because I realized then, I wasn't surviving anymore. I was winning. They always come back one more time. Not for love. Not for closure. But for control. They come when they feel you slipping entirely from their grip, when the story is no longer about them, when your silence grows louder than their noise. And so, of course, she showed up. No warning. No call. Just her car in the driveway on a Monday afternoon like the months hadn't happened. Like lawyers weren't involved. Like she hadn't torn everything down to its foundations with a smile on her lips and someone else's voice in her ear. I saw her through the window, standing at the front door, holding a small cardboard box, wearing the same navy coat she used to hang on our shared hook, the one I took down and burned. I didn't answer the door right away. I watched her shift her weight, glance around, tap the box nervously. When I opened the door, I didn't step outside this time. She didn't smile. That was new. No performance, no sparkle. Just a tired expression and a box between her hands like an offering. "I thought you might want these back," she said. I said nothing. She opened the flaps, books, a few shirts, a couple of old notebooks, a wristwatch I'd lost a year ago and asked about more than once. She swore she hadn't seen it. I didn't reach for the box. "You said you never saw the watch," I said evenly. She looked down. "I forgot I had it." "You forgot? Or you didn't want to admit it?" Her jaw tightened. "Does it matter?" "It did then." She nodded slowly. "I guess I wasn't ready to give everything up." I tilted my head. "You didn't give anything up. You traded it." That stung. I saw it land. She blinked quickly and looked away. "I just wanted to see you. One last time. Before everything's finalized." "Everything is finalized." She tried to smile. Couldn't. The performance faltered. Her eyes stayed on the box. "He's gone," she said suddenly. I waited. She kept talking. "We fought. He said I used him. I told him he was never supposed to be real. He called me a liar. And," she hesitated, "and he was right." I finally stepped outside, closed the door behind me. She looked up. "I lost both of you," she said. "I thought one would cancel the other out. That's how broken I was." "You weren't broken," I said, voice steady. "You were selfish. There's a difference." Her face cracked at that. For once, no defense. No blame to hurl back. Just a slow, painful collapse of whatever mask she was still holding. "I've been seeing a therapist," she offered. "I'm trying to understand what I did. Why I did it." "Good. I'm not asking for anything. I know you don't owe me anything. I just needed to say it." Silence stretched between us. The box. The driveway. The wreckage. Then I said, "Why now?" She looked confused. "What do you mean? Why this moment? Why not 2 months ago? Why not when I asked for honesty the first time?" Her eyes flicked to mine. "Because you were finally gone. And it terrified me." There it was. Not love. Fear. I took the box from her hands and set it down beside me. "I hope your therapist helps you understand one more thing," I said. "What's that?" "That it wasn't the betrayal that ended us. It was your choice to keep doing it, even when you saw it was killing me." She didn't argue. She nodded once, slowly, like someone accepting the verdict. Then she stepped back, turned, walked toward her car. No hug, no tears, just the weight of everything she didn't get to keep. I stood there long after she drove away, looking at the box, the books, the watch, the notebooks filled with old plans that never saw daylight. I didn't open them. I left the box in the garage, a coffin for things that no longer mattered. Because now the final part was mine to write, and it would be clean. There's a strange silence that comes after the last chapter is written. Not peace, not quite, something more grounded, final, like a door locking from the inside and echoing through a house that doesn't need to be haunted anymore. That's where I am now. The papers are filed, signed, stamped, her name, detached from mine, no longer inked beside it. The house is under contract. My lawyer smiled when he told me the sale price. Turns out, he said, your boring little kingdom was a fortress. I didn't reply, just nodded. He didn't know how many ghosts lived in those walls. But I did. I burned the journals. Not out of anger, out of release. I lit them one by one in the fireplace. Pages filled with dates, times, conversations, emotional surgeries performed with trembling hands. Watching them curl into ash felt better than any revenge I could have planned. Because revenge still ties you to the thing you're trying to escape. And I was already gone. As for her, she reached out once more. Just one last message. I get it now. Too late, but I get it. You didn't just stop loving me. You started loving you more than what I did to you. I didn't reply, because she was right. The old me, the one she manipulated, gaslit, played like background music while she danced for someone else, he wouldn't have survived this. He'd have begged, bargained, compromised. He'd have called it a rough patch, blamed himself, made excuses for her emptiness like it was his job to keep her full. But he's gone. What's left is someone sharper, quieter, stronger, not because he wanted to be, but because she gave him no choice. And Nora? We talk often. Still no label. Still no pressure. She brings calm with her, like rain after drought. She's seen my worst and doesn't flinch. We sit on the porch some evenings, sharing silence like old friends who've already said everything that matters. Maybe it'll be something. Maybe it won't. That part doesn't scare me anymore, because I no longer need to be saved. And if you're reading this, stuck in your own unraveling, let me leave you with this. Betrayal isn't the end of a story. It's the beginning of a new one. One that you get to write. One where your strength isn't defined by how much you endured, but by how fully you rebuild. She wanted to shatter me, but I turned every broken piece into a blade. And now, she'll never forget how sharp I became.